one concurrent viewer. I wonder who it is. I think you've probably just come from the Stephen JJames stream of the same title. What I found particularly enraging is, well, I mean, obviously if you say try not to be demoralised, the implication is that you are demoralised. And if you want to say that to people, then you have to give them a reason why you shouldn't be demoralised. It's as simple as that, and if you don't give them a reason, they'll be even more demoralised. That is the problem with that stream. So actually I was feeling quite cheerful. Guess what I've done? I time-stamped my 12-hour stream, which you may think is a bit excessive, but as Carol and I were saying, i.e. white Muslim woman, you did miss a lot, even though you were in the stream and you were talking and participating, and then when you listen again, you pick up quite a few things that you missed as you were participating and talking and probably not listening as carefully as you ought to, all the nuances, and maybe even realising that you answered a question you weren't even asked. So yes, actually I find my own streams quite educational for myself. And I was extremely pleased with myself that I managed to keep people on topic for 12 whole hours. 12 whole hours. So I see that Stephen JJames has a problem with what Samuels is saying about Christianity, but he shouldn't be really, because every cloud has a silver lining and every silver lining has a cloud. We have to take a balanced view about these things, and I'm sure in every situation we can think of the bright side of things and always reflect on the fact that things could be worse even than the thing that we fear. Now, what is important to understand is that there is a solution to every problem, even if it is a solution that we do not choose. It is still the solution, and all we have to do is go through the reasons why we reject it. We could reject it because we have a better option. That's a good reason for rejecting the worst option, because you have a better option, because all sorts of things. You go through a tick list in your mind about what the problem is and what the solution is. It is certainly not to keep dithering about whether there is a problem or not, which quite a few people do, and this I find particularly exasperating. It is infantile, in fact, not to make up one's mind because one is, well, I don't know, obviously neurotic, but after I pointed it out time and time again that it is neurosis to act and speak irrationally, it's fallen on deaf ears. People prefer to be neurotic. Why do they prefer to be neurotic when a better option exists? That is a problem. Is it psychology? Is it psychiatry? Why don't people think straight? Why can't they? Is there some genetic reason why Christians or post-Christians can't think rationally? Well, I mean, what's wrong with them? So, if you adopt the rationalist view about problems, then you have to assume that every problem has a solution, but also accept the possibility that the solution may not be within your reach. Well, supposing your problem is you want to get to the moon, the cure will be to get into a space-worthy vessel, but the problem that pops up is that you might not have access to a space-worthy vehicle, but at least you know what the problem is. But what I see is this revolving door attitude to the problem. So either Christianity is kaput or it isn't, and if it is, then you could fix it or not fix it or replace it. These are the options. So you need to diagnose a problem. If it's not working, can it be made to work? If it can't be made to work, do you need to replace it? If you need to replace it, what do you need to replace it with? It's perfectly logical, isn't it? Not the Christianity is kaput and not kaput. But then I know I'm talking to neurotics here. I don't think there are zero people watching my streams. I think the viewership has been suppressed by YouTube, and I think people who do not watch it at a time will watch it later because of the unparalleled quality of my content, which of course the morons and vegetables cannot appreciate. Now, if I say something I try not to be demoralised, I will give you a reason other than, well, I'm still alive. Now, I know Stephen has been helpful to me in the past, and I don't mean him any animosity, but I found his stream particularly demoralising, and I suppose I saw that he wasn't going to come to any conclusion. And if you have nothing constructive to say, then maybe it is a bit narcissistic to just go on and not say anything constructive. I know he has ADHD, but actually when he writes, it's fine. He sounds perfectly educated, perfectly coherent, and perhaps it's narcissism that causes us to talk nonsense. Now, I don't think I just stream when I have nothing to say. Have I ever started streaming and then forgotten the topic? Possibly. I post a title and then don't stick to it, which is why I regarded my 12-hour stream on theology as, a kind of effortless triumph, in that everybody was just happy to fall in with my topic. Everybody who wanted to come on had something to do, something to say about religion. It didn't matter whether they liked it or didn't. As long as they said something that was to do with religion, it was all right. It was appropriate. Now, I wonder how I don't flatter myself that I could have achieved this so effortlessly if it were not the fact that all the people who came on the stream had something to say about religion. Now, why do you think they're thinking about religion? All of them, all these people, even the atheists had some something to say about religion. And obviously, it's because, whether they acknowledged it or not, was that they saw that something was terribly wrong and is continuing to go very wrong, and there will be no hope of the solution to these massive problems of economic collapse, possibly World War III, with hopeless, incompetent, corrupt politicians in charge doing God knows what, because it doesn't make sense for them to do what they're doing for themselves as a political and ruling class. So we can deduce from that fact that they have no idea how to govern in the national interest, and this means they don't care about us, and they have no idea what to do other than to make the most of their very short time in power to do whatever damage they can do in the least time available. So, faced with this, what hope do we have? I still think we have a solution if only we would acknowledge that Christianity is kaput and liberalism is for losers and democracy is dementia, and obviously, talk about secular Quranism as if it were the solution. Well, it is the solution. It is the only solution around. I am surprised, astonished even, that I really am the only person in the whole wide world with a solution that is both viable as well as morally and intellectually respectable. I have noticed that Muslims are blowing hot and cold over it, and that is because they are cowards too. They are cowards like Jews are. I've told Jews what they should be doing, what they should have done centuries ago, and they pretend not to understand. And I also tell Muslims what they ought to be doing, and they also pretend not to understand. And being the people who ought to know better, it is disgraceful. I mean, if all I'm doing is talking to, people who really know religion and really know hope, I can understand that, but these Jews and these Muslims who claim to be believing Jews and believing Muslims can't get it together to do the obvious thing. So that would be also considered demoralising. But I'm not demoralised. Because if a hypothetical supreme authority existed, then there would already be a cure. The hypothetical supreme authority is, of course, the Abrahamic God, and Judaism states that before the disease there is the cure, because God in his wisdom and compassion has made it so that to every problem there is a solution, even if people are often too stiff-necked, too stubborn, too prideful to see it. Now, it's very simple, really. If you think, okay, it's so obvious, isn't it? The problem is you're corrupt and incompetent, evil, insane, stupid politicians. That's your problem. The system produced them. What is a system? It's liberal democracy. It produces corrupt and incompetent politicians. Where did liberal democracy come from? It came from liberalism. Where did liberalism come? come from? It came from the French Revolution, when the French revolutionaries chanted their slogan of liberty, equality, and fraternity. And what was the French Revolution about? It was the rejection of Christianity and monarchy. We know this. We know that the French revolutionaries beheaded members of the priesthood. We know also that the French Revolution was a confirmation of the American Revolution. That was a rejection of Christianity and monarchy. So, I don't know how much clearer it can be made. Short of, God tapping you on the shoulder and saying, but he's not going to, because, well, the narrative is that God endowed man with reason and expects him to use it. And it's just tough shit if they won't use it, because then the consequences that they will suffer the consequences of not using their reason. So as if it weren't enough to have the American and the French revolutions rejecting Christianity and monarchy, the Russian Revolution reconfirmed all that. And people are still not getting it. I know you didn't learn this in history, in your history classes. That's cool. But it should be obvious by now what has happened. I've explained it quite a few times. I know you subscribe, you view my streams. You've heard me say more than once that the American, French and Russian revolutions were rejections of Christianity and monarchy. So obviously the replacement moral and political system must be that of the Quran-based Sharia in a one-party state. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? I mean, it's not going to be communism, it's not going to be Nazism, it's not going to be, well, it can't be liberalism because it's obviously failed, and it can't be fascism because it doesn't really have the moral and intellectual authority that you need to establish a new system of government. So it's got to be secular Quranism. So what's the problem? I mean, it would be simpler if there was, if the Muslims were actually strong enough to conquer the West, and they just take over and run it better, right? But no, they're pretty weak too, and they're pretty corrupt and incompetent. I mean, considering that they kicked me off the EA Dharma stream, and because they got scared of being demonetized. I should be demoralised, but I can choose to look at it in another way, which is that, if these Muslim men can't even stick to their principles and discuss an idea rationally without getting scared and having the frightenness put on them by, well, whoever put them on, I think it's, people like Paul Williams, people like Hamza, people like E.F. Dawa, putting the frighteners on the Americans, and the American Muslims caved in like a house of cards, which is disgraceful considering they're meant to be Muslim men. Muslim believing Muslim men, but, well, they lost their reason, they lost their principles. And I stand head and shoulders above these pathetic Muslim men claiming to believe in God, terrified of being demonetized. So they stick to their displacement therapy of arguing with dumb Christians about the Trinity. That's what they're reduced to. I can look at things in more than one way. And I choose to regard the fact that E.A. Dawa are not up to discussing secular Quranism without getting scared as proof of my superior moral fibre. So this means that I'm better than they are. Anyway, I won't talk for much longer to my 3 concurrent viewers. Because I have other things to do, such as go to bed. But I'm not demoralised. I'm not like those pathetic Orthodox rabbis who won't do what I ask them to do and can't discuss it because they don't really believe in their principles of Judaism, and neither do these hypocritical Muslims who are so easily frightened that they unceremoniously removed me without giving me a chance to defend myself, and then got that Jacob Fatureki to burble about me. I don't find that demoralising at all, actually. So watch the space and talk to you all later.